welcome to this update with Alfie, the Mustang that is being tamed and learning how to do a bunch of fun things. First off, I'm going to show you guys some of his foundational movements that he needs to do for the competition. So these are all things that we'll get asked to do in our handling pattern. So first off, we're doing our 360 turn, usually a haunch turn where they want us to pivot on the inside hind leg. I'm also going to show you guys some of his long lining and his lunging in this video as well. So you can see his turns going pretty well. He's crossing his front legs really nicely and he's planting his back legs. So he's doing a good job there. Still learning which of the hind legs to stay planted once we get turned around. And you can see there's some horses eating grass in the background while still in this area. So he's doing a great job of just kind of working through that and ignoring them as he's figuring this out. Backing between the wide poles there was super easy for him. And then side passing the pole is a brand new task that he's working on. It's pretty challenging for him. He says that this is really hard. And side passing a pole is actually something that we will probably be asked to do as part of our trail pattern. Sideways is usually part of our handling, and then we do a trail pattern. The trail pattern often has backing up between poles. It has usually a bridge in it. Sometimes it has a side pass over the pole. Sometimes we have to trot over poles. It's got a variety of skills that just show how well our horse is trained to handle different situations. So you can see this is a little challenging for him, and he finds it easier going one way than the other way. So as I ask him to go to this direction here, he seems to understand it a lot better. And of course that's with me on his left side. And typically we've done more training starting on the left side because that's where he was more comfortable, and then we've added in the right side. And so here on the right side, he's just a little bit stickier, a little bit more unsure about where to go. You can see he tries backing up over the pole. He kind of still goes sideways a little bit, but just not super confident. So horses are definitely different from one side to the other, and we have to train both sides for sure. Here, asking him to go back over the pole, we're going to repeat that again. And I'm really just trying to clarify for him what I want him to do. So I'm guiding him forward or backwards as needed. I'm trying to be as consistent with my feet as possible. So I try to be really careful that I'm not following him backwards or following him forwards, because that will confuse him based on the path that I'm trying to get him to do. So here, asking him to catch his little bum up. So he's getting his shoulders pretty nicely, and then he's not getting his back end there. So trying to ask him to get his little back end going. It just kind of goes to show you that he can get his sideways really good, and then you add in that pole. For some horses, that is easier for them to figure out, and then for him, it added a real element of difficulty for him. So we'll definitely be working on that. So after doing that a little bit more, here's a little look at just doing half of the pole, just to make it a little bit easier for him to make sure that he understands what he's supposed to do. So you just kind of slow it down, just do that half the pole, and then we'll move on to go do something else. So we'll take a look at his trotting now to see how he goes in hand. And his trotting, he's a little bit on the lazy side. So getting him to get going is a little bit harder. So here's a little look of me attempting here, asking him to get going. And you can see he does a tiny little bit, but I'm way out in front of him and I'm really having to pull on that rope a fair bit. He definitely can do a little bit better than that, but that's all I did for the camera. And then here's another little look where he gets going a little bit easier, but you can see he's still quite far behind me, and using a little bit of pressure on that rope as well. So that's all going to improve over time as we keep working on those things. Now we're going to go on to some lunging, so you guys can see what he looks like here. So he's actually picking this up pretty nicely, and I was really happy with this because there's no like fence close by here, and he's doing really, really well. Asking him to go out for a little trot, and then we've been working a little bit on that canter, which you can see he was a little bit frisky going into that canter, so we're going to ask him to go again and see if we can get a nicer transition. So there you can see he had better emotional control, so I'm going to bring him in and offer him a little cookie there, make sure that he knows that he's doing a good job. One of the hardest things when we're taming Mustangs and then we start to lunge is the horse can start to get a little bit scared, because it's kind of like you're chasing them out and you're like making them run. So very easily the horse can start to become more disconnected. and it can be a little bit of a harder skill for them to learn. So I try to do little bits, like kind of say like, let's ask you to go, and then offer that cookie. And it's still a good thing for him to learn that I can kind of chase after him a little bit, where you can see I'm using my rope and I'm kind of saying like, get going. And for him to understand that I'm just trying to communicate that I want him to go faster. I don't actually hate him or not like him. And, you know, he's not going to have to go around forever and ever. It's not that I'm making him do a million circles or something like that. It's just asking you to go and then asking you to stop. And then that's going to help him for, let's say when we get to riding and I go to kick a little bit with my legs or something to ask him to go, he needs to know that it's not the end of the world. It's okay. It's just asking him to move. And in this case, like, I don't have like a big whip or something like that. I'm just kind of spinning my rope there around, just trying to get him to get going and understand what all of that means. So here, sending him out again, and I'm using the end of my rope to kind of twirl at him to ask him to go a little bit. So he's mostly going off of my energy that I'm sending at him, because I'm definitely not hitting him with that rope, and just trying to get him to understand that when I ask you to go, I want you to just pick up your energy and go. And there you can see, gives me a nice little transition into the canter. So I'm going to bring him in and give him a cookie. So here now we're taking a look at our long lining. So much happening in this video, so much progress. So here's a little look at that long lining where I've got Bree leading him and I'm using the long lines out behind him. And he does a really great job here. I'm doing a little stop, and we're actually out in the outdoor arena, which means there's lots of space out there. And he's just been really, really awesome at most things. Even here, like I'm asking her to turn him so that way he can feel the rope get kind of underneath him. And so here he gets upset at that rope behind his butt a little bit and does have a moment where he turns and kind of spins around, but doesn't feel the need to completely run away, doesn't get like massively upset or something like that. He actually stays pretty chill, all things considered. So here I'm just kind of trying to hold the ropes and film at the same time while trying to not let him step on the ropes, and really just trying to let him feel that around his bum. You can see he's doing a really awesome job and just getting really comfortable with that rope going around the back of his legs. And it all just follows that idea of, we're doing things to you that are not meant to hurt you, they're not meant to scare you, and we're trying to do things as kindly and as clear as we possibly can, giving him lots of rewards along the way. And he's looking really relaxed there, and it just really helps set him up to be successful when we go to start riding him, because he's going to be used to all this stuff kind of happening, and it's not going to be the end of the world. It's just going to mean to go ahead and walk on and just learn the different cues. So this is now a different session where I'm asking him to long line. And you can see he looks wet because it's been raining outside. So here he's getting a little confused. He's trying to turn and look at me. So I'm just trying to turn him to not look at me and then ask him to go, which I'm flapping the rein or the long line at his bum a little bit to ask him to go. And that flapping behind him really helps him start to learn the cue for when we start to ride. He gets to learn what legs are and kind of what that flapping means. And it's a pretty light rope. It's a really light rope. So I don't worry about kind of moving the rope too little. If anything, I want to make sure the rhythm kind of stays moving down the long line. And I want to be soft and light, but at the same time, if I'm going to ride him, I want to make sure he's not going to be completely upset if I accidentally nudge him with my leg, or if I bump him too hard. I want to make sure that he's going to be comfortable with that. So I want to sometimes use a bit of a bigger rhythm, just so he knows that it's not a really big thing. I'm not mad at him. There's no reason to get emotional. It's still communication based, but sometimes as people, we make mistakes and we cue a little bit bigger than what we intend to. So sometimes you'll notice that I'm really, really soft and really quiet, especially if I notice that he's struggling with something. Like here, he found that really hard to steer over the pool. So I'm going to use really soft cues. And then when I feel like he's kind of, getting it in a bit of a better mindset, then I'm going to use bigger cues so that way I can help him understand and kind of prepare for that riding piece to make sure that he's not going to be upset over those bigger cues. We want to try to prepare our horses as much as possible, and you're definitely going to see that as we get into his riding training as well, that sometimes we're going to bump the leg a little more, or sometimes we're going to accidentally, or not accidentally, but on purpose, we're going to bring our leg too far back, or we're going to lean too far forward. And that's all to help make sure that he knows that people move around and people go in different positions, and it's okay. Nobody's going to hurt you, and just stay calm, and it's okay to slow down and just think through it. That's the main thing, is we want to encourage horses to think through what it is we're asking them to do. And he's doing a great job here. He's steering around some different things. He's gone over poles. And so I'll show you guys, we do a little change of direction. We go the other way and we do some more steering. And so this is now after doing a fair bit of long lining practice. I showed you guys part of the beginning of the session, which was kind of awkward and choppy and how ugly that looks when you first start it. And then here's a little look later on in the session. Just, it's a lot smoother. He looks a lot more sure about where he's going and following the cues. He's actually starting to offer little bits of trot in there. Like there, he's offering to trot. He's like, okay, I get it. We're going this way. And I'm like, yep, that's correct, but we don't need to do it fast. And we'll do stopping and offering those cookies as well, and trying to get him to be nice and soft in that backup. So it's not pulling on the reins as he's backing up. I want to look for a moment when he's both backing up and soft. It's so important that we start to put that softness into our horse now, and that we don't wait until there's already a bracing issue. And we create that bracing issue if we're rewarding after the horse is bracing or tossing their head. So I'm looking for him to both back up or turn or whatever it is without any stress. So we want both relaxation and understanding, because ultimately head tossing and things like that is just stress. It's them being upset. So here's a little look at just kind of how I'm solving him wanting to stop at the gate. So he keeps not wanting to continue on another lap. And so I just kind of keep steering him and kind of keeping him where I want him to go, trying to make a left turn there. And I just kind of stay consistent. I block him from going the other way, and I'm just kind of zigzagging him back and forth a little bit, trying to be as consistent as I can and kind of blocking him when he tries to go the wrong way, but at the same time being really gentle. And when he does go forward, I just allow him to go. So here I really want him to go over the little cross rail there, so I just kind of point him where I want him to go, and just really kind of sticking firm with those boundaries of the direction that I want him to go. And having those visual targets of going between the different jump standards really just helps to give that visual of where he's supposed to go. So I hope you guys enjoyed seeing Alfie's progress. He's definitely learning a lot along the way, and I'm pretty excited for him.
Remember to subscribe and check out harmonyhorsemanship.com for even more learning.